race who can defeat Donald Trump in November, and that is Bernie Sanders. Because Bernie Sanders is the one person in this race who I have ever seen consistently fighting for the issues I have been waiting my whole life for a candidate to talk about. Now we need everyone in this room to work as hard as we possibly can from now until Tuesday so that we can win in Massachusetts. And then we need everyone in this room to keep doing everything possible throughout the rest of the campaign season so we can win around the country and win the Democratic nomination and then win all the way to victory in November. So I don't think I have to ask, but are you with me? Are we going to work hard? Are we going to elect Bernie Sanders this November? Absolutely. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage the former president of the Massachusetts Teacher Association and organizer of Labor Notes, Barbara Mandoloni.
So I'm here tonight as an educator and a labor leader because Bernie Sanders is our best hope for public education and the working class. As you might know, Bernie, his largest group of contributors are educators. So why is that? Because public education is essential to democracy, and Bernie's platform defends public education from the corporate privatizers. It values the dignity of educators and commits to funding public education and debt-free higher education. But Bernie also has the support of educators because we know in our classrooms every day that our students are coming from homes, if they're lucky, if they're not homeless. Our students have family members who are working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet while managing the burdens of poor or no health care, the everyday abuses of racism and threats from ICE, and the impending climate crisis. Teachers support Bernie because his platform takes on the structures of power that create these injustices. And because his campaign invites all of us into the struggle together to build a better world. Now, teachers know something about movement building. From Chicago to West Virginia to Oklahoma to Arizona to Los Angeles, educators have been rising up and fighting for public education and the public good. Educators are teaching us about what it means when we use our collective power. They've been leading the movement in bringing parents and students and the community together to fight for the public good. Of course, here in Massachusetts, we know something about working together to defend public education. In November of 2016, Mass voters offered a lone bright spot when we defeated the ballot question that would have increased the number of charter schools and sapped millions of dollars from public education. And let me tell you, the 413 was right down with that. 413 was right down with that. We defeated that question even though the Walton Foundation and other corporate interests spent $30 million to win. Even though they bought TV ads like candy and tried to divide us by race. We won because we talked to people. Educators, students, parents knocked on doors, made phone calls. And in those conversations, we discovered something really important. People really value public education profoundly. We discovered that we actually have shared values, shared interests, and that we want the best for each other. And that's what Bernie's campaign is about. Naming our shared values and commitments to each other refusing the lies and corruption that attempt to divide us, linking arms, and voting not as singular individuals, but as a collective, as a multiracial, multi-generational movement that insists we can build and will build a more just, loving, liberatory, and joyful world. Not me, us. 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 Not me, us.
Please welcome to the stage State Senator Jamie Eldridge.
Good evening, Western Massachusetts. In 2016, I was proud to endorse Bernie Sanders for president. Things seem a little bit different in 2020, huh? I was proud and inspired by Bernie Sanders' vision to fight for things like Medicare for all, Fight for 15, criminal justice reform. But I'll tell you, in 2016, I was also troubled by the state of the Democratic Party. And what Bernie Sanders did in 2016 and what he has done over the past 4 years is he has transformed the Democratic Party. He has inspired millions of people to re-engage in politics. And as he inspired me to engage in proposing bolder solutions for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, just like everyone here tonight. And that's why I stand with you tonight as the proud lead Senate sponsor of an act to establish Medicare for all in Massachusetts. For universal basic income to end income inequality. For debt-free college to make sure everyone can afford to go to college. And to stop climate change, 100% renewable energy. So what I want you to know is that I am standing here with you tonight, and this weekend, I need you to stand with me in knocking on doors for Bernie Sanders for president in Massachusetts. I need you to make phone calls in your communities to make sure that on Tuesday, Bernie Sanders wins the Massachusetts presidential primary. Are you with me? I am with you. I have been with you for the past 4 years. Let's go on to victory on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage State Representative Lindsay Sabadosa.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Sabadosa, and I am proud to stand here tonight as one of the co-chairs for the Bernie Sanders campaign in Massachusetts. Like many of you in the room tonight, I have been counting down the days until election night 2020. Not only because I am ready for a new president, and let me tell you, I am ready for a new president. because I am ready for a new president who believes in big, bold, structural change and who has the courage, the passion, and the plans to make it happen. We need a president who enacts a Green New Deal, who ends mass incarceration and breaks the school-to-prison pipeline, who protects the right to choice and repeals the cruel Hyde Amendment once and for all, who invests in affordable housing and ends homelessness, who eliminates student debt, and who finally fixes our broken healthcare system by implementing Medicare for all. In Western Massachusetts, people are feeling the weight of ever-rising healthcare costs and the brokenness of our system. In my district, one man told me how he has mass health coverage, and that was the only way he stayed out of debt when his heart stopped and he needed a pacemaker. But when he was offered a promotion at work, he couldn't take it for fear of losing that coverage. Another woman who was caring for her adult son who had a stroke said that he needed 10 sessions of physical therapy a week to get better. Insurance decided he needed 5. These are just some of the thousands of stories that underline how even in a state like Massachusetts, where we have near universal coverage, true health care remains unaffordable and inaccessible to many. Medicare for all, a single-payer system as exists in nearly every other country in the world, is the solution to fixing our broken healthcare system. And that is going to put some people who have spent a lot of time profiting off of our healthcare, they're going to be a little scared. Insurance companies, big pharma, and maybe even a few billionaire-backed candidates are going to yell loudly that Medicare for all is expensive. And they're going to try to scare people. But let me be very clear. What these people are not telling you is how much we're paying for health care right now. They forget to tell you that Medicare for all will save $450 billion each and every year compared to the status quo. They forget to tell you that the average American family is paying so much for health care compared to other developed countries that it's like we're paying an $8,000 tax a year. And they forget to tell you, health insurance is not your health care provider. You might lose your plan, but you're not losing your provider. Medicare for all is universal, accessible, affordable health care. And if the United States wants to be serious about ending our high maternal mortality rates, ending the opioid crisis, and offering real harm reduction-based recovery, stopping the spread of infectious diseases, and so much more, we need to rise up together in a real, people-powered movement to demand the end to one of the greatest sources of inequities in our nation, access to health care. It is going to take a movement. It is going to take a revolution. It is going to take a president who knows how to fight for us. I am ready for Medicare for all, and I am ready for President Sanders to take this fight to the next level. We don't get there alone. We get there with a not me, us attitude. Let's do this together. And now I have the great pleasure of introducing to you the next President of the United States.
case you haven't noticed, there are a few people here tonight. Thank you all very much for coming out. Let me begin by thanking Bela Fleck for that great music. Let me thank Effie Harrigan. Let me thank Representative Paul Mark. Let me thank Barbara Mataloni. And I want to thank Senator Jamie Eldridge and Representative Lindsay Sabadosa, because they are fighting for exactly what all of us are fighting for, health care as a human right. We are here together for two fundamental purposes. Number one, we are united as a people. We are united together to make sure that we defeat Donald Trump, the worst president in the modern history of this country. Donald Trump is a pathological liar. And no matter what your political view may be, you know that we cannot continue having someone whose word means nothing because he lies all the time. Donald Trump is running one of the most corrupt administrations in the history of this country. Donald Trump apparently never read the Constitution of the United States. And every day, with his attacks on the media, with his attacks on the judiciary, with his attacks on Congress, he is undermining American democracy and moving this country toward an autocracy. So tonight, we say to Donald Trump, this is a democracy. We're proud of our democracy. We're not going to have an autocracy. But it's not just that Trump is grossly dishonest. It is that he is a fraud. Donald Trump, as you'll recall, when he ran for president, he said, Donald Trump, I'm a friend of working people. Now, that is the biggest crock that I have ever heard. Trump promised the American people that he would provide health care to everybody. And yet, as president, he tried to throw 32 million people off of the health care they have. Tried to do away with the protections that people with pre-existing conditions have. When Trump was running for office, he said, well, my tax plan is going to benefit working families, not the rich. He lied. 83% of the benefits of that plan that he pushed through over a 10-year period goes to the top 1%. Donald Trump said, I am a different type of Republican. I'm not going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. He lied. Take a look at his budgets year after year, calling for massive cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. We are going to defeat Donald Trump because the American people are sick and tired of a government that works for the rich and ignores everybody else. The American people are sick and tired of a grotesque level of income and wealth inequality, which allows 3 billionaires to own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. They are tired of tax breaks for the rich when 500,000 Americans are sleeping out on the streets tonight. They are tired of the fact that over a 45-year period, with all of the increases in technology and productivity, the average American worker today doesn't make a nickel more in real inflation accounted for dollars than he or she did 45 years ago. The American people are sick and tired of kids not being able to afford to go to college or leaving school deeply in debt. They are tired of 18 million Americans spending 50% of their limited incomes on housing. They are tired of not having affordable child care. So what this campaign is about is, number one, we're going to beat Trump, and we're going to beat him badly. But second of all, we are in the process of putting together an unprecedented, multiracial, multi-generational grassroots movement. This is not just a campaign, it is a movement that says, to the corporate elite, you cannot have it all. We're coming back. And what this campaign is doing is bringing together blacks and whites and Latinos, Native Americans, Asian Americans, the gay community, the straight community. We are standing together for an agenda that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. And I'll tell you one of the things that I'm very, very proud of, and I want all of you to be proud of. Our campaign does not have a super PAC. We don't have billionaires putting money in an undisclosed way into a super PAC. I don't go to rich people's homes begging for money. Our campaign at this particular moment has received more campaign contributions, some 8 million, from more Americans, about 2 million. That is more contributions from more people than any campaign in the history of the United States of America. As a son of the American working class who grew up in a rent-controlled apartment, I am proud to tell you that this is a campaign of the working class, by the working class, and for the working class. And whether the corporate elite likes it or not, we intend to create a government that works for us, not just a few. Now, some of you may have noticed that the political establishment and the corporate elite are getting very nervous. I just read something, I think yesterday, military-industrial complex is really nervous. Wall Street is getting nervous. The insurance industry is getting nervous. The drug companies who charge us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, they're getting nervous. The fossil fuel industry that's destroying this planet, getting nervous. the prison industrial complex, they're getting nervous. And you know what? They have a right to get nervous. We're going after them. But one of the things that you're hearing from the establishment now is really pretty funny. What they're saying is, you see, and these crowds, turnouts like this all over the country, make them very nervous. And what they say is, oh, Bernie can't beat Trump. Well, I would urge them to take a look at the last 60 national polls. And they will find that 56 out of 60 times we beat Trump. I would urge them to take a look at battleground states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. We beat Trump. See, they're not worried that I can't beat Trump. They're worried that we will beat Trump. And the reason we're going to beat Trump is because of you. Right now, as we speak, all over this country, as we approach Super Tuesday, there are thousands and thousands of people knocking on doors, making the telephone calls that we have to make. That is why we won the popular vote in Iowa, why we won New Hampshire, why we won Nevada. And that is why we're going to win here in Massachusetts. Why we are going to win the Democratic nomination. And why, with great pleasure, we're going to beat Trump and beat him badly. And the reason that we're going to beat him is that we are going to create in November the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And that's not something that I can do alone. We got to do it together. The United States has the lowest voter turnout rate of any major country on earth, and together we have got to change that. Now, I know and you know that many of your friends think politics is bullshit, right? All right. But we have got to tell them to stop complaining. We don't want to hear about how they can't afford rent, how they're not making enough money, how they're paying off their student debt, can't afford health care. Stop complaining. Tell them to get involved in the political process. And we're going to win because we have the agenda that speaks to disenfranchised, disillusioned working people and to young people as well. All of us as Americans should be proud that the younger generation today is the most progressive young generation in the history of this country. This is a generation that is anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobia, anti-xenophobia, anti-religious bigotry. We're having a lot of fun tonight. But here is the good news. It is a great generation, but it does not vote in high enough numbers. So what we have got to do is change the culture of America. You know, people fought and died. People fought and died for our right to vote. And we have got to stand up and fight for democracy, get involved in the political process. So, you know, politically correct, not using a plastic bottle. All right. Now, what does it mean? You know, some of you may have seen the food fight that appeared to be a debate the other night. And that's sad, because we need serious discussion. There are a lot of serious crises facing this country, and they have to be discussed. And that was not a mechanism to do that. But what politics is about really, when you get beyond what media tries to do, it's not complicated. It is saying, what is going on in our country today? How did we get to where we are? And where do we want to go? And when we talk about where we want to go, I always remember a brilliant short statement by Nelson Mandela. And what Mandela said, I want you to think about what he said. He said, everything is impossible until it happens. Everything is impossible until it happens. It was impossible 100+ years ago for workers to form a union. Couldn't happen. It was impossible for the African American community to stand up and get the right to vote and to defeat racism. Impossible for women to get the right to vote. Impossible for our gay brothers and sisters to get married. Always impossible until it happens. The major obstacle that we have, and what this campaign is dealing with right now, is I know the power of Wall Street and of corporate America. They're enormously powerful, enormously wealthy. They are not the major problem. The major problem is the limitation of our own imaginations of where we want to be. And what I'm asking you and what I'm begging you is, don't listen to the media and their definition of reality. Don't listen to Congress and their definition of reality. Ask yourself where this great country should be going. And then when you do that, and when you look at the issues facing the country, and you know them better than I, and then you say where we want to go, the answers are not hard. Number one, never ever forget that today you are living in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. That's what you are, but nobody knows it, because almost all of the income and wealth goes to the top 1%. So when we look at the issues, we say, okay, in America today, we have tens and tens of millions of people who are working for starvation wages. That's a fact. We're going to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. We're going to end the absurdity of women making 80 cents on the dollar compared to men, because we believe in equal pay for equal work. And when millions of workers in this country desperately want to join unions, we're going to make it easier for workers to join unions. We have a proposal in that in a 4-year period will double the number of workers in the trade union movement. This is the wealthiest country on earth. Our infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems, wastewater plants should not be falling apart. We're going to invest in rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and create millions of good-paying union jobs. In America, 500,000 people should not be homeless tonight, and 18 million families should not be spending 50% of their income on housing. We're going to build 10 million units of low-income and affordable housing. And when we talk about an agenda that works for working people, we understand that there is nothing more important than education. we understand that 0 through 4 are the most important years of human development. And we cannot understand why we continue to have a dysfunctional child care system. And that is why together we will have universal, high-quality, affordable child care for every family in America. If you love America, you love the children. And if you love the children, we're going to make sure they go off to a great start as little kids. And we believe that all of our children, no matter what their income is, no matter what their zip code may be, are entitled to high-quality education. And that is why we're going to triple funding for Title I low-income schools. And I'll tell you something else, because we believe in education, we believe in educators, our teachers. I just came back this afternoon from South Carolina. Thousands and thousands of teachers quit every year because they're earning starvation wages. It is not too much to say that if we want our kids to have a great future, that we need to attract the best and the brightest into education. And I hope many of you will give thought to becoming teachers. And my view is that no teacher in America should earn less than $60,000 a year. And if you believe in education, you understand that free public education is not just K through 12. We've got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And if you think outside of the box, and if you think about a government that represents workers and not billionaires, then you ask yourself, how did it happen that 12 years ago, against my vote, Congress voted to bail out the crooks on Wall Street? How did it happen that 2 years ago, Trump gave his billionaire friends and large corporations a $1 trillion tax cut? Well, if we could bail out the crooks on Wall Street, you know what we can do? We can cancel all student debt in America. And let me pick up on a point that Jamie Eldridge and Lindsay Sabadosa talked about. And that is, we will end the international disgrace of being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a human right. And I want all of you to understand this. Right now in America, we are spending twice as much as the people in Canada and in virtually every other major country. We are spending $11,000 for every man, woman, and child for health care. That is an outrageous sum of money. But for all of that money, we end up with 87 million people uninsured or underinsured. And let me tell you about underinsured means that you got high deductibles, high copayment, and you hesitate to go to a doctor when you should. And as a result of that, at least, and this is, I know, a conservative number, but shamefully, unbelievably, 30,000 people in our country die every single year because they don't go to a doctor when they should. They die unnecessarily. And then we have a situation where we are paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. You all know that? You can go to Canada, you can go to Europe, and you can buy the same exact prescription drug, in some cases, for 1/10 the price that the drug companies are selling it to us here. And then, to add insult to injury, and this is really unbelievable because it speaks to the cruelty, the extreme cruelty of this system. 500,000 people a year go bankrupt because of medically related debt. Think about that one for a second. Think about the ugliness of that. Somebody goes to the doctor, they're sick. Doctor says, I'm sorry, you have cancer. And the person's mind is reeling. What am I going to do? What doctor do I go to? What treatment do I go to? What medicine do I use? They're fighting for their lives. And while people are fighting for their lives with cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, whatever it may be, then they got to worry about financial ruin for their family. That is not what this country can be about. That has got to end. And that is why, after 100 years of talk, we in this country been talking about universal health care for over 100 years. Teddy Roosevelt talked about it. FDR talked about it. Truman talked about it. Johnson talked about it. Barack Obama talked about it. 100 years of talk is enough. Now is the time for action. Last year, while 87 million people were uninsured or underinsured, and we paid the highest prices in the world for drugs, the healthcare industry made $100 billion in profit. So today we say to the healthcare industry, the function of a rational and humane healthcare system is to provide quality care for all, not to make billions in profits for the healthcare industry. Now, we got a president who embarrasses us every day, but he is also embarrassing and endangering the entire world. Donald Trump continues to believe that climate change is a hoax. Well, I myself think that Donald Trump is a hoax. Now, I'm going to make a radical suggestion to you. Are you all ready for a radical suggestion? Now, we got emergency medical service available if anybody collapses. But here it comes. Our administration will believe in science. And what the scientists are telling us is that the situation regarding climate change is even worse than they had previously thought. What they are saying is they have underestimated the speed and severity in which climate change is ravaging our country and the planet. What they are telling us is that the polar ice caps are melting at a faster rate than they had previously thought, that the oceans are warming at a faster rate than they had thought, and the sea levels are going up and up at a faster rate. What they are telling us is that there is more drought than they had anticipated, more extreme weather disturbances. What they are telling us is that the ocean is becoming more acidic, which means fish are dying and people who get their protein from the ocean will no longer be able to do that. And what the United Nations is telling us is if we don't get our act together, there will be several 100 million climate refugees by the end of the century. That is what the scientists, not Bernie Sanders, that's what the scientists are telling us. And that is why, unapologetically, I have introduced the most sweeping climate change proposal ever introduced by any candidate for federal office. Based on the principles of the Green New Deal. This proposal will create up to 20 million good-paying union jobs. as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And because climate change is obviously not just an American issue, but a global issue, my job, if I'm elected president, is to tell China, tell Russia, tell India, tell Pakistan that we are in this together. And that maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.8 trillion a year on weapons of destruction, maybe we should pool our resources, fight our common enemy, which is climate change. And when we talk about issues that must be addressed, we have got to deal with a broken and racist criminal justice system. It is not acceptable to me, nor to you, that we have more people in jail today, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American, than any other country on earth. And that is why together we are going to invest in our young people, making sure they have good jobs, good education, and stop investing in more jails and incarceration. That is why we are going to end private prisons and detention centers. And that is why we're going to end the destructive war on drugs. Now, it turns out that there are some things that a president can do through executive order. Other things need legislation. Turns out that one of the things you could do with executive order is to legalize marijuana in every state in the country. How many people in this room know somebody who was arrested for possession of marijuana? That is what the war on drugs has done. Together, we're going to move forward to expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And when we talk about systems that are broken, we are going to bring major, major reforms to our immigration system. On a very, very busy day one, we're going to sign another executive order restoring the legal status of the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. Under our administration, no federal agent at the border will be snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. And together, what we will do is what the American people want us to do, and that is to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship. No matter what our political point of view may be, the American people are disgusted and horrified by the level of gun violence in this country. The American people want strong gun safety legislation. Right now, as I think you all know, Donald Trump and the Republican leadership are intimidated by the NRA. As president, I will not be intimidated by the NRA. We will pass universal background checks. People who have a violent past, including domestic violence, should not own a gun. We're going to end the gun show loophole. We're going to do something that I have fought for 30 years, and that is to end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, as a member of the United States Senate, I hear a lot of speeches on the Senate floor, and I hear them from conservative Republicans who tell us that they believe in small government and they believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people. Well, I say to those hypocrites, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, understand that it is women who have a right to control their own bodies, not the government. So here is a promise you can take to the bank. I will never nominate anyone to the Supreme Court or the federal bench who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. We will fight to codify, put into law, Roe v. Wade. Trump and his friends want to severely cut funding for Planned Parenthood. Well, we've got some bad news for them because we're going to expand funding for Planned Parenthood. Bottom line is, it is not complicated. It is women who have a right to control their own bodies, not the government. So, here we are, a few days before the important primary in Massachusetts and Super Tuesday. I am here tonight to humbly ask for your support. I am here to ask you to bring out your friends and your family and your co-workers so that we have the largest voter turnout in the history of the Massachusetts primary. But I'm asking something of you that is even more than that. As all of you know, the message of our campaign is us, not me. And what that is about goes beyond an election. What it says is that our view of human life is that we are stronger when we understand that we are in it together. That every family in America has its share of problems, and when my family cares about your family, and your family cares about my family, we all do better. And the other thing that us, not me, reflects is an understanding of the power structure in America, something that is not talked about terribly much in the media. And what it means is that no president, and I'm the only candidate I think would tell you this, no president, Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. Because what we are doing is taking on extraordinary power. I know these guys. I'm a senator. I know Wall Street, and I know the insurance companies, and I know the drug companies, and I know the fossil fuel industry, and I know the military-industrial complex. I know the prison industrial complex. I know their incredible power and their enormous amounts of money that they have. They are very, very powerful. If we are going to transform this country, the only way we do it is together. When millions of working people stand up and demand decent wages, we're going to get decent wages. When people stand up and say we're not going to pay 50% of our income in housing, we're going to build the affordable housing we need. When moms and dads demand affordable, high-quality child care, we'll get affordable, high-quality child care. When young people say they don't want to leave college deeply in debt, we'll get free tuition at public colleges and universities. And when people in our country and all over the world say we want our kids and grandchildren and future generations to live in a healthy and habitable planet, yes, we'll take on the fossil fuel industry. So this is, again, not just a campaign, it is a movement. And we need you in that movement. We need you to be reaching out to your friends and get them to rethink their role as citizens in this country. You just can't sit back and watch the TV. You got to get involved. So this Tuesday, Super Tuesday, very important day, maybe the most important day in the whole primary process. We are here to ask your help to win here in Massachusetts, to help us win the Democratic nomination, to defeat Donald Trump, and to transform this country and create an economy and a government that works for all, not just the people on top. Spring